Hi everyone. Hope everyone's having a good, wonderful morning and you're learning a lot. My name is Faizan Sayed. I'm the founder and CEO of East River. We're a performance marketing tech company. We do content moderation. We're in the US, Brazil, KSA, and now obviously in Pakistan as well. I'm happy to be moderating this session. There are three fantastic businesses here that I'd love to learn about and three fantastic founders who I'd love to learn from. So we'll kick it off right to start off with a quick round of introductions perhaps, starting with Ehsan.
Yeah, so my name is Ehsan Hussain. I'm the country head of SimPesa. SimPesa is a payment facilitator, and we are not just operating in Pakistan. We started our journey in 2016, and with the passage of time, we introduced different payment modalities and different models to cope up the requirements of the market and facilitate and solve the problems which currently exist in the market. And Alhamdulillah, now till 2025, we are operating in more than 5 countries right now, which not only includes, not limited to Pakistan, but UAE, Singapore, Nepal, Bangladesh, and many others. So this is our basic introduction, and at SimPesa, we are currently processing billions of dollars payments through the licensed financial institutions by making the journey very simplified journey for the users. At initial stage of ours, we had been experiencing a lot of difficulties in engaging different operators and all. So, Alhamdulillah, we have reached to this level, and hopefully in future we will be launching many of the new solutions which are the requirements of the market and which will eventually help merchants to collect and disburse payments in a simple matter of clicks. Yeah.
Great, thank you. Zayan.
So hi, I'm Zayan Bawani, co-founder and managing director of Ticketwala. Ticketwala is Pakistan's largest live entertainment marketplace. If you're here today, you have used our product in some way, shape, or form, and I thank you guys for that. Essentially, we aggregate all the different entertainment initiatives in the country. We're a discovery platform at heart, trying to bridge the disconnect between the event organizer and the consumer.
Thank you.
Hi, I'm Maheen. I'm the founder, co-founder, CEO of Dot & Line. Dot & Line is an online learning platform where we're connecting incredible women from Pakistan with students in now 14 countries for online learning classes.
So, very interesting, 3 completely different businesses, but if I look at the similarities, each one is using technology as a layer of connecting one end to the other. One is delivering money, one is delivering an experience, and the third one is delivering education, right? So it's 3 completely different sort of outcomes using the same tech. And I'd start with Maheen. Walk us through how you ensure quality in that delivery experience, because education can be very variable because it's all dependent on the instructor, right? The curriculum can be fixed, but if the instructor is not strong, what is your process for ensuring quality and instructor selection?
So Faizan, quality for us is linked to operational excellence as a competitive moat. What does that mean? That means that we look at our systems very, very carefully, and then we perfect, templatize, and replicate those systems across the board. And that, I think, as boring as that sometimes sounds, because it's like an assembly line model, you're really perfecting every single piece, but it makes the founder redundant, and your company's excellence or your company's success is then linked to your systems. I'll give you an example. So for us, we've systemized and then perfected the teacher recruitment system. We've templatized our demo classes. We've templatized what a teacher, down to what a teacher looks like. What kind of lighting she has, whether she should wear print or solid colors, where her router is placed. Once all of that is templatized and operationalized, we have made scale easy for ourselves.
And how do you select the teacher?
That is a very long process. We have a 3 to 4% acceptance rate. We have a digital application, which is where we start. There's a demo class that we take care of. Once you compete at the demo class level and you make that cut, they submit a course outline. which subject specialists will look at. If you make that cut, you go through an asynchronous, completely templatized onboarding or teacher training process, after which you create your courses and are onboarded to the platform.
And how much does standardization, Zayan, how much does such a standardization and such a focus on process play a role in a ticket and an entertainment and an experiences business or platform like yours?
Standardization in terms of, here's the thing, Ticketwala was created, as I mentioned earlier, to bridge the disconnect between the event organizer and the consumer. And what that meant was that there was a gap in consumer knowledge. People didn't know about all the different initiatives that were going on. And what that meant was you had to focus on all events, not just the larger events, but the smaller events as well. And so what we've tried to always do has been to essentially treat all event organizers, big or small, as equals, right? So there's no preference that we necessarily give to the larger ones and we do the smaller ones. And so our process is actually standardized across every single event organizer, from onboarding to, event day operations. And that's how we actually get the smaller event organizers to, over time, become larger ones as well, and enable them to do more events and streamline their processes.
Got it. And in SimPesa, the entire business is based on standardization. You can't not have standardization in financial services. I'll ask you the opposite question. Do you see a lot of variance in your business? And if so, how do you deal with it?
So see, when we started, and in fact, when we observe the journeys which we are dependent on the financial institutions. So technically, when we started and we took this leverage by connecting to the licensed financial institutions, we observed a great distance or great different user journeys are being presented for the customers, and which created an opportunity for us to streamline the user journey and make it more simplified by tweaking the different processes, eliminating the extra layers of processes. And for that, we need to obtain several certifications, such as ISO 27001, that is data security standards, PCI DSS, in order to manage the tokenization services. So, see, in order to give a customer a real experience and a unique experience, simplified, and the experience which he more prefers, requires a lot of effort, and getting the different players on board onto the standard level of the procedures is something which was the niche of the market at that time. And in fact, we are currently also working hard in order to onboard all of the licensed institutions towards the same journey.
Got it. I'll pivot a little bit. I think a lot of people would want to know what it's like running and starting a business. Tell me, Zayan, did you ever, at any point, because you started a business, went right into COVID, and you started a ticketing business, and there was no events happening, how did you deal with the feeling of just wanting to quit and give up? Because I'm sure you went through a lot of that.
Yeah, I think that's a very important question. COVID was a pivotal moment for us. In fact, I think it was our defining moment. And when COVID came around, we were 3 months into our MVP. We had probably 100,000 rupees in lifetime GMV. We had less than 150,000 rupees left in the bank after blowing our small family and friends around in numerous stupid decisions. And it was actually the easier decision at that point to give up and to quit and to shut down, because entertainment was the first thing to go and the last thing to come back. We had no traction, and we were essentially operating in a market where we were, I would still say, early, and people didn't necessarily believe in our grand vision of what things could become in the entertainment space in Pakistan. But we refused to give up, and we believed in our vision. We knew that the market was extremely underserved, and we knew that it was going to grow exponentially over the next few years, and that COVID would probably increase that, once things eased up, because people were stuck at home and they would have been craving this, need to go out and, So what we did was we cried for a few days. We were very depressed initially. It seemed like, everything was over and done with. But like I said, we refused to give up. We made some very difficult decisions. We let go of all our employees except for one. Obviously, only paid him and not ourselves. Shut down the office, moved into my house where we were working from for the next 2 years. And while all our competition essentially paused and was waiting for things to, ease back up, we doubled down. So we did everything we possibly could to increase our marketing efforts and reached out to all the different event managers in the country and signed them essentially on to exclusivity with us for once things reopened. And we noticed that it wasn't just us in this position, right? Everyone, the whole world has suddenly stopped. And so everything was moving onto Zoom. People were going online with makeup classes and photography classes and fitness classes. And so we noticed that they didn't actually, one, have a place to list these classes, and two, they didn't want to give out their personal bank account information, publicly. So we started listing them as virtual events on our website. And that worked for us really, really well. We actually had our best months during that time. And because we started doing this and we were the only people doing this, people started recognizing us for our marketing. And so we actually ended up launching a separate marketing agency on the side, which helped us sustain the salaries of Ticketwala and give those extra added services to Ticketwala and the event organizers. And that's been fundamental to how we operate today. So COVID was, it was our biggest success as well. We turned that in from, death to the best thing that ever happened to us.
So not giving up, focusing on the purpose and creating an alternate source of funding is
Yeah.
my takeaway from that experience. Maheen, did you ever go through moments of wanting to give up and say, you know what, it's better to just shut this down, it's too hard to templatize things, to standardize things, there's so much variance in sort of every tutor's background and home and situation. How do you not give up and continue? Because it's been, 8-9 years now?
8 years now. Absolutely. I think we all go through ups and downs. But as a founder, I think to to recognize what part of your company is working well, and then to double down on that. I really wanted to say today how important it is to say no to things. I think very often we get pulled in by great ideas, we want to do everything, we want to make our products very fancy, but to say more no's than yeses really got us through, because we really doubled down on what's working, we perfected that, we kind of kept out all the other noise, and we made it through to the other side. The other piece that really, really pulled us through was to look at our budget like a product requirement document. What that means is that the budget becomes a living document that you look at every single day. So you know your runway like you know your CAC or your LTV. And when you know your runway really well, you're able to prioritize again and keep your head in the game and keep yourself on like this, the straight and narrow, which helped us get through.
In terms of scaling, so we've talked a little bit about sort of going through a difficult period. Esan, I want to touch first. Was there ever a difficult period for SimPesa? Because you're dealing with money all the time, and you're taking a fraction of that money. So technically, you're always making money. Would you ever go through a difficult period in SimPesa?
Well,
It's okay to say no.
Well, there are several questions which requires an answer in a very diplomatic fashion, because there are several after effects as well. So anyhow, I will take this question in a fashion that, of course, whenever you are in a payment facilitation business, or let's suppose in the payment specific business, so there are times at which you find your volumes are taking nosedive, and you need to think why it's happening, because of course with the same technology, with the same infrastructure, everything was going fine, and suddenly the market is going down. Why? The user spending pattern has got changed, or the users don't have enough power to spend for the products or the merchants which we have onboarded. So we had to take a deep dive into the findings, why the volumes are going down. And you know what the reason was? There are several regulatory challenges in Pakistan to operate, and one of the major, one of the biggest challenge which I would be highlighting is, in Pakistan, you're not allowed to host your data outside Pakistan. It's a new thing. So, although you can use the cloud services in Pakistan, but you can't host the data outside Pakistan. So this is one of the key thing. Another thing is the processing speed. Our financial institutions are currently working on open APIs, but the market has got real very changed from the globalization perspective. So it took a downward turn when we adopt the processes towards the globalization standards, and we figured out that the processes which we are currently following in Pakistan have gone obsolete, and the trends of payment methods have gone renovated with the passage of time in different countries. So we had to analyze all of these things, and yes, and that was the key reason. And for there were few reasons as well, but the two key reasons were the regulatory challenge. Number two is the change in technology and the payment preference methods. Yeah.
So walk me through another thing I wanted to better understand about each of the businesses, right, is who is your target customer, your target audience, and I want to understand with sort of the proliferation of AI, whether it's agentic or not, how does that experience delivery affect what you're delivering to the target customer? Let's start with Maheen.
Our target customer has changed over time as our business has evolved. Today, we look at the demand and supply. For us, the demand are the students and the supply are our teacher partners. When I look at the supply, it's definitely women in Pakistan who have a degree, who have master's degrees, who have PhDs, who are driven internally. On the student side, 70% of our revenue today is USD based. So most of our students are outside of Pakistan, and what I spoke about earlier, excellence in operations has brought us to a global stage where we're able to bring in the dollar revenue and ride out the tough times. Now, with AI and technology, that's an interesting conundrum because I think we often look at AI and digitizing experiences or services right at the end user stage. But when I look at Dot & Line and my company, I see AI as a tool to build efficiencies into processes. Let me give you an example. Teachers today around the globe, over 50% of their time goes into marking papers, creating lesson plans, dealing with parents, communication. I'm very excited for AI because even now, Magic School and other AI tools are digitizing all of that administrative work for teachers. So what you're really doing is you're building efficiency within existing actors to be able to translate into your outcomes and your bottom line revenue. So I'm really excited about AI in education.
Raihan?
Yeah, so similarly, we have two types of customers, right? We have the supply and the demand side, we have the event organizers, and then we have the ticket purchasers. And both of them we have to treat like equals, and we have to build our brand and our trust with both separately in different ways. Now, when it comes to the event organizers, I already touched upon earlier how we try and maintain the same relationship we do with the smaller event organizers as we do with the larger ones. And I'm very much involved, as so are my co-founders as well, in the process. I think I've got over 3,000 WhatsApp groups, at this point. I'm in every single event WhatsApp group personally. I have a relationship with every single event organizer personally. And because of that, we have a 99% retention rate. And of that 1% that leaves, 0.5% has actually always gone to a competitor and come back. Because we're able to actually customize the process for them a little bit as well and show that we care. So it's a little bit different. AI probably won't affect us as much, even though we are integrating it. But it's very personalized and it's very hands-on. And especially over here in Pakistan, we've pioneered all the data and entertainment. And what we try and do is we try and consult our event organizers as well in how to improve their events and which artists might perform better, which venues might perform better, and so forth as well. And what we're doing with AI on the event organizer side is that we're trying to actually take that data and plug it into these different LLMs and get some analysis and stats on all of that data, and therefore being able to help them improve their events in the long run. For the customer side, the process is pretty simple in terms of just going from ticket purchase and, attending the event. But we've streamlined that in terms of, we've actually just integrated ManyChat as well onto our social media, onto our WhatsApps and stuff as well, trying to improve it by having like bots come and answer, and then obviously having the ability to speak to an actual customer representative as well. But it reduces, let's say, the time it takes for someone to get a response as well. So we are trying to work in AI where we can, but at the same time, we also need to stay true to the hands-on operations that we've always had, because that's what's helped us grow and maintain those relationships.
Got it. So efficiency for Maheen, much more hands-on for you guys. You're just using that for efficiency. Essen, target customer and your target customer and how you're using AI to enhance that experience.
See, every business is, I believe, it's a data-driven, right? And when you talk about AI relation to the payment facilitation business, analyzing the data and customer patterns are very important. We developed several products which includes BNPL, Buy Now Pay Later, which includes Send Now Pay Later. So these are all the products which are actually based on the data. What is the customer pattern? What is the trend of the customer sending remittances in Pakistan? So these are all data-driven. When you need to observe the pattern of the customer, you need to check the loyalty of the customer. And how you can do it is by using the AI tools in order to analyze and take a deep dive into the data, observing different patterns, the spending patterns. In case if you're offering loans to the customers, then certainly you need to see his spending patterns first, the limits, the budgets which he holds, and the amount of capability which he holds in himself for further expanding its budget for the new products, or in case if you are trying to expand or stretch his budgetary requirements by offering them loan. At the same time, see, this can be a connect between two of the products. So by extending the limit of the customer and offering the new product at the same time. So the AI is like a blessing for us.
The blessing.
Yeah.
Wish this panel could go on for a long time. I'm learning a lot, but we have to wrap up. I'll just summarize some of the key takeaways that I've gotten that hopefully are useful for everyone here in the audience. I think the first and foremost is if you're starting a business, you got to have grit and you got to have purpose and you got to ride out the difficult moments, because you will have more of those than you realize. The second is, even if you're in a business that's constantly printing money, your down cycles are about losing volumes and looking for patterns in the down cycle and understanding the patterns. I also understand that AI is an efficiency tool, and the more data you feed it, the more efficient it makes your business. But ultimately, what I've understood is you need to have a clear understanding of who your target customer is. Or if you're bridging two sets of people, whether you're connecting teachers to students, whether you're connecting entertainers to audiences, or whether you're connecting someone who's sending some money sitting in Saudi to someone in Pakistan, you need to understand who you're serving and what you're serving them very clearly. And with this, thank you so much all for the panel. Thank you to Catalyst Labs, Jahan, for the opportunity, and we'll see you all outside.